Following a contentious proxy battle with investor Nelson Peltz, Bob Iger walked away victorious along with his entire board slate. And today should have been a moment on the earnings call this morning that Bob Iger was able to solidify faith in his leadership, his continued leadership as CEO. But Wall Street had a very different reaction than probably what Disney had hoped for. Now down nearly 10%, at least as of the time that I'm recording this. So what happened? And the bigger question is, was Nelson Peltz right all along? And are Wall Street investors maybe now regretting some of their votes that they cast just a month ago?
Renegade Online.
Let me pull this up here so everybody can see. Pre-market trading. It's still down about 4.71%, and I'd like everybody to direct their attention, if you can hear, the Dow Jones futures are relatively flat. The S&P futures are relatively flat, as are the NASDAQ. So it's just Disney in this case. Disney is running away with it. So part of the reason is some of the guidance they're giving forward in this report for Q3. Basically, what this report is suggesting that, hey, we showed a $47 million profit on direct-to-consumer in Q2, but in Q3, which is what we're currently in right now, they're expecting things not to be as good. So it's almost like they're suggesting it's going to fall back into a loss in Q3 and then become profitable again in Q4, which would be, say, August 1st, or excuse me, July 1st through September 30th. So we'll have to see how that shakes out. I will say this to a lot of the folks in the chat. Bob Iger, I think, got pressed more, and as Elijah brought up politely, I think Bob Iger got pressed more today on this call than we've heard in a while, and that gives me two comments here in general, and then we'll go to some specifics for the panel. Number one, you missing Nelson Peltz yet? Because let me tell you what, folks. Let me show you something, because this is, I got to go back to this. So right now, Disney is still, it was down at the lowest point, 105.66. So we're still pushing for a pretty rough day, and I want everybody to take note of where the S&P 500 is, where the Dow Jones 30 is, of which Disney is one of the 30 components, and where the NASDAQ is right now. So what you're seeing with Disney, this is in no way related to a broad market macro effect. This is what you're seeing with the Disney stock price right now is Disney. Now, to be fair, we covered the Comcast earnings call a week or so ago. Comcast did not have a good reaction, although I don't think they were down quite this much. I think they were down maybe 6% on the day, something like that, or right after the call. Comcast obviously is much more affected by the cord-cutting issue, and that's some of the concern. But Comcast overall, when you look at it, this is what's crazy right now. Comcast, the theme parks, and the studio division, which would be NBC Universal. And particularly when I say studio division, I'm talking about the movies in cinemas, right? These are the two things that the Walt Disney Company should lead the pack in. But the studio division obviously is killing Disney right now. But at Comcast, that's one of the bright stars. That's the Universal lineup of movies is one of the bright spots. And somebody even mentioned earlier, talking about the movies coming this summer, we're talking about Disney Universal once again going head-to-head with a Pixar title versus a Despicable Me / Minions piece of IP.
I think that's the true thing that they're missing here. Disney has a huge problem on their hands because kids love Minions, and for some reason grandparents seem to tolerate them. By the way, Universal topped Disney as the #1 studio by ticket revenues last year, and they seem to have a good year coming up. Disney used to account for 44% of the box office.
With Disney, this is just my opinion, okay? I could be dead wrong, because I can't read everybody's mind on the market. Nobody can. But we're seeing what we're seeing. It seemed to me, based on the questions, especially the multitude of questions that came in the way of asking about what is going to be done to reinvigorate the studios. Why is their performance so bad? How about, more sequels versus original content? What about Marvel? The questions and the concerns from Wall Street right now seem to be, part of it obviously is the cord cutting, the secular headwinds, I'm sure, because that's having a direct impact on revenues, both top and bottom line for linear, where it's not really being made up yet in DTC. But there seems to be a lot of questions about the management at Disney. I didn't get that sense at all during Universal Comcast's call. I got a lot of that sense here during this call with the management, particularly at the studio side of Disney. That to me was striking.
Even though Comcast did have a large exit with the head of NBC Universal leaving, and it sounds like he's going over to Paramount or Skydance or something like that, they had a very large exit at Comcast, and no one was worried. All they did was say that the timing was a little off there. We've got a bunch of people who, other than Josh D'Amaro, none of these divisions are that profitable. ESPN needs to be fixed, but that ESPN documentary that came out on CNBC, that did not instill a lot of confidence in Jimmy Pitaro. In fact, that made me check the box of saying, okay, we don't need to consider this guy for CEO of the Walt Disney Company. That leaves Alan Bergman quiet, Dana Walden, who sounds like will be a woke disaster, and then Josh D'Amaro, who is running a successful division within the company.
No, my overall impression is just as you just said right there. The questions I thought were perhaps the most interesting thing here. They took more questions, much more questions than usual. And to me, that suggests that there was demand in advance that, look, we'll be polite, but we have questions. Questions that we haven't been adequately answered. Because, and I think we're seeing that on screen right now. Like, look, it's like still around 8.2, 8.3% down. That's not a great reaction to the market, and not everyone has gotten a hold of this yet. So this is Wall Street now having doubts about Iger, about Disney, about their ability to turn things around. I think that's what this is really about. If there's a theme here, it is that Wall Street has lost faith in Disney, as we already see that the industry or the Hollywood trades have done, calling them out, because the failures now can no longer be ignored. And what's even more interesting to me is the deflective nature of the answers that Iger provides, where their biggest strategy is hope. Oh, yeah, we have turned everything around. We have faith in our team, the same team that mucked this up to begin with. We have full control. We really believe in our slate, which is the same slate that it was 2 years ago. Only we didn't mention the Snow White, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, and Andre, it seems to me that the time for these questions maybe should have been a month or two ago, before the annual shareholder meeting and the vote. Yeah. Just my opinion.
Yeah.
So,
also,
Andre,
then it might not have worked out so well with the whole Peltz thing if it was.
Look, the stock has to go down for this company to get fixed. Now, it doesn't help me personally because I got a block of 500 at 172, and I got another block of 200 I picked up like around 78 and 80. So I am way upside down on this crap. But it is what it is. So, hashtag cancel Disney Plus. Hashtag.
I mean, again, as it stands right now, this is where we're sitting with this. The market has had a very, very negative reaction here. And I know, Paramount had its own issues. We covered that one. Warner Brothers has its earnings call Thursday morning early. I'm going to try to do that one while I'm on the road. We'll try to see what's going on there. Warner Brothers is, they have a lot of problems right now, mainly because it looks like they're going to be losing a significant chunk of the NBA, and that's basically their entire value in their live sports. That's going to have a huge impact on Warner Brothers.
Which will, of course, affect the JV.
Yeah. That's the other thing that's why I didn't have much faith this thing was even going to work to begin with. Not to mention, like I said, apart from the fact that they're not going to have Universal as part of it, and not going to have CBS, Paramount as part of it. I mean, those are
think about all
major-
this competition now.
Yeah.
Think about, I mean, now you're going to put ESPN into Disney Plus. How is that not competing with the ESPN app? How is that not competing with the JV? You have so many different sports things competing with one another. If you're Disney, it's getting confusing even to us, and we cover this.
Yeah, it's kind of a wild mess here. It really is. And this has not been a good day for Disney, and I'm not sure that they've, like I said, they've already guided towards the fact that Q3 that we're in right now for Disney, of their fiscal Q3, calendar Q2 for everybody else, this isn't going to be much better. In fact, it may be worse. So right now, what you're seeing is the market pricing in what they think is going on right now. If it's worse than that, this number is going to get even lower. So once again, we're seeing a repeat of what happened last year. Peltz came in. We got to change things. We got to do good. Bob Iger talks about all this pie in the sky. Everything's wonderful and great and can't wait to see this and that. Stock price goes up. Nelson Peltz says, okay, fine. Let's leave you to your devices and see what happens. The rest of the year, the stock drops back down to where it was. Nelson Peltz comes back in at the end of 2023, says, yep, this didn't work. I need to get in here. He went through with it, pulled 35% roughly of the vote, which was very good because remember, again, Michael Eisner was ejected with 43% of the vote. But he didn't win. He didn't get a board seat. And that's when Disney stock was, it's up at 120 or whatever it was. And I'm like, watch, we're going to get a repeat of 2023. And here we go, folks. Here we go.
Right.
Nelson Peltz was right.
Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.